The cameras stopped. John Wayne fell. And everything changed when the letter hit the ground. Monument Valley, Utah. August 1975. The set of the Shootist, John Wayne's final film. The desert heat shimmered above the red rock formations, turning the horizon into liquid. A western town facade stood against the vastness, false front buildings, hitching posts, wooden sidewalks worn smooth by decades of movie productions. The crew was resetting for another take. Grips adjusted reflectors. The script supervisor checked her notes. The director, Don Siegel, conferred quietly with the cinematographer about the next angle. Everyone moved with the practiced efficiency of people who'd done this 1,000 times before. John Wayne stood near his mark, still in costume. Weathered leather vest over a checkered shirt. Gun belt sitting low on his hips. The hat tilted back on his head, revealing a face carved by 68 years of living. Deep lines around the eyes, sun-damaged skin, that distinctive jawline that had defined American masculinity for 4 decades. He was tired. More than tired. But no one was supposed to know. 20 feet away, a young actor named Michael Brennan watched him. Michael was 24, fresh out of theater school, playing a minor role, a townsperson with 3 lines. This was his first real film job. His first time working with a legend. He'd been watching Wayne all week. Not starstruck watching, but careful observation. Something was wrong. Wayne moved differently between takes. Slower. More deliberate. Like every step required calculation. The assistant director called out. 15 minutes to next setup. Take 5, everyone. The crew dispersed toward the catering tent, seeking shade and cold water. Wayne didn't move. He stood there in the sun, one hand resting on the hitching post, breathing carefully. Michael hesitated, then walked over. Not too close. You didn't crowd John Wayne. Mr. Wayne? You need anything? Water? Wayne glanced at him. That famous gaze, direct, measuring, deciding if you were worth the words. I'm fine, son. His voice was the same voice from 100 films. Strong. Certain. But there was something underneath it now. A tightness. It's brutal out here today, Michael offered. Heat index must be over 100. Wayne smiled slightly. I've shot in worse. He had. Decades of westerns and deserts and mountains. Monument Valley alone, he'd made how many films here? Stagecoach, The Searchers, she wore a yellow ribbon. This landscape was inseparable from his image. The Duke in the desert. But that was when his body could take it. Before the surgeries. Before the cancer. Wayne shifted his weight, and his hand tightened on the hitching post. Michael saw it, the micro-adjustment, the bracing, and understood. The man wasn't resting. He was holding himself upright. Mr. Wayne. I said I'm fine. The tone was final. Michael nodded and stepped back. You didn't push. Wayne had made that clear to everyone on set. He would work. He would not be coddled. He would finish this film on his feet, playing a gunfighter dying of cancer because that's what the script required and because maybe, in some way, it was the only honest role left for him to play. The assistant director called out. We're back in 2. Wayne straightened, releasing the hitching post. He adjusted his hat and started walking toward his mark. 3 steps in, his right leg buckled. Not dramatically. Not like the movies. Just a sudden loss of strength, a betrayal of muscle and bone, and John Wayne was on one knee in the dust, his large weathered hands braced against the ground, trying to catch himself before he went all the way down. The set froze. No one moved. No one knew what to do. You didn't rush John Wayne. You didn't treat John Wayne like he needed help. He would hate that more than the fall itself. But Michael moved. He didn't think about it. He just ran, crossing the 20 feet in seconds, dropping to his knees beside Wayne, one hand reaching toward the older man's shoulder. Mr. Wayne. I'm fine, Wayne said again, but his voice was strained now, the pretense cracking. Just need a second. Michael's eyes dropped to the ground beside Wayne's hand. Something white against the red dust. An envelope. It must have fallen from Wayne's jacket pocket when he collapsed. The envelope was worn, handled many times. And on the front, in careful handwriting, to Duke. Michael's hand moved toward it automatically, just to pick it up, to hand it back, but Wayne's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Don't. The grip was still strong. Even now. Even collapsing in the desert with cancer eating through his body, John Wayne's hand on your wrist meant you stopped. Their eyes met. Michael saw something in Wayne's face he'd never seen in any film. Not anger. Not toughness. Fear. Fear that someone would read what was in that envelope. Fear that the mask would slip completely. Wayne didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Michael pulled his hand back slowly. I won't look. I promise. Wayne held his gaze for another moment, then released his wrist. His hand moved to the envelope, picking it up carefully, as if it might dissolve if handled too roughly. He tucked it back into his inside jacket pocket, patting it once to make sure it was secure. Help me up, Wayne said quietly. Michael stood first, then reached down. Wayne gripped his forearm and Michael pulled, feeling the full weight of the man, not just physical weight, but something else. The weight of being John Wayne for 40 years. The weight of never showing weakness. The weight of dying while trying to finish one last film. Wayne got to his feet, brushing dust from his pants with sharp, angry movements. The rest of the crew was starting to move now, concern breaking through their paralysis, but Wayne waved them off. I'm fine. Lost my footing. Let's set up. The director approached, concern written on his face. Duke, maybe we should call it for today. Pick it up tomorrow when it's cooler. I said let's set up. The tone allowed no argument. Don Siegel nodded and turned away, signaling the crew to prepare. Wayne started walking toward his mark. Michael stood there, still feeling the grip on his wrist, still seeing that envelope tucked back into the jacket. Son! Michael turned. Wayne was looking back at him. Thank you, Wayne said. 2 words. Quiet. Meant only for Michael to hear. Then he walked away to do the next take. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. They finished the day's shooting. Wayne did every take. Hit every mark. Delivered every line with that voice that could fill a theater without shouting. When Siegel called wrap, Wayne walked off set without assistance, climbed into his trailer, and closed the door. Michael went back to his tiny motel room and couldn't stop thinking about that envelope. The worn edges. The careful handwriting. To Duke. The next morning, Michael arrived on set early. The sun was just coming up, painting Monument Valley in shades of red and gold that no cinematographer could fully capture. The set was quiet. Too early for crew calls. But John Wayne was already there. He sat on the wooden sidewalk in front of one of the false front buildings, still in his street clothes, slacks and a casual shirt, no hat, no costume yet. And in his hands, unfolded, was the letter. Michael stopped walking. He should turn around. This was private. This was none of his business. But Wayne had seen him. You're up early, Wayne said. Couldn't sleep. Wayne nodded, understanding. First film. The excitement. The nerves. Come sit. Michael approached slowly and sat on the sidewalk a respectful distance away. Wayne folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. But he didn't put it away this time. He held it in his hands, looking at it. My son wrote this, Wayne said. Michael. Named him after my character in Red River. Michael stayed quiet. Listening. He sent it 3 months ago. When I told him I was doing this picture, he asked me not to. Wayne's thumb traced the edge of the envelope. He said I'd already done enough. Said I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Said, his voice caught slightly. Said he wanted me to come home and just be his father. Not the Duke. Not John Wayne. Just his dad. The morning wind moved across the desert, carrying the smell of sage and dust. I didn't listen, Wayne continued. I told him I had to finish what I started. One more role. One more film. I told him it mattered. Did it? Michael asked quietly. Does it matter? Wayne looked at him. Really looked. Measuring again. Deciding. I don't know anymore, Wayne admitted. I've spent 40 years playing men who knew what they stood for. Men who didn't question. Men who did what needed doing and didn't look back. And now I'm playing a man dying of cancer who has to decide if his whole life meant anything. He gestured at the desert around them. And I'm doing it while I'm dying of cancer in real life. And my son wants me home. And I'm sitting in Monument Valley holding his letter and wondering what the hell I'm trying to prove. It was the most honest thing Michael had ever heard anyone say. Especially John Wayne. Why did you come back? Michael asked. To the set. This morning. Wayne looked at the letter again. Because I don't know how to quit. I've never quit anything in my life. Even when I should have. He stood up, the movement careful, measured. Michael stood with him. Don't become me, son, Wayne said. You've got a long career ahead of you if you want it. But remember, it's just movies. Just pretending. The real thing. He held up the letter. The real thing is at home waiting. Don't make them wait too long. Away from the cameras, Wayne made a choice no one expected. That afternoon, between setups, Wayne called his son from the production office. Michael was nearby, moving equipment, and heard Wayne's voice through the thin trailer walls. Michael? It's your father. I got your letter. I've been carrying it with me. A pause. You were right. I should have come home. Another pause longer. I know. I can't stop now. But when this wraps, I'm coming home. We'll go fishing like you wanted. Just you and me. No cameras. No press. Just us. Michael heard Wayne's voice crack slightly. I love you too, son. Tell your mother I'll call her tonight. When Wayne emerged from the office 10 minutes later, his eyes were red. He saw Michael and stopped. You heard that? Yes, sir. Wayne nodded. Good. Maybe you'll learn from my mistakes. They shot for 3 more weeks. Wayne never collapsed again. Michael watched him carefully, saw the pain management, the careful breathing, the way he'd sit in his chair between takes with his eyes closed, gathering strength. On the last day of shooting, after Siegel called final wrap, the crew gathered for the traditional end of production photo. Wayne stood in the center, surrounded by cast and crew. Michael stood in the back row. Before the photo, Wayne reached into his jacket and pulled out the envelope. He looked at it one more time, then carefully tucked it into his shirt pocket, over his heart. The photographer snapped the picture. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. The Shootist was released in 1976. It would be John Wayne's final film. He died 3 years later, in 1979, of stomach cancer. He was 72 years old. At his funeral, his son Michael stood and spoke about his father. Not about the movies. Not about the legend. About the man who'd called from Monument Valley and promised to come home. About the fishing trips they'd taken. About the year and a half they'd had together after the cameras stopped. My father carried my letter with him every day of that shoot, Michael Wayne said at the funeral. He told me later it reminded him what mattered. Not the roles. Not the image. The people who loved him. After the funeral, Michael, the son, approached Michael Brennan, now a working actor with a growing career of his own. They'd stayed in occasional touch over the years. He talked about you, Michael Wayne said. About that day you helped him up. He said you saw him. Not the Duke. Just a man who needed help. He never forgot that. Michael Wayne reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn envelope. The same one. He wanted you to have this. He said you'd understand what it meant. Michael Brennan took the letter with trembling hands. Inside, his own son's words to Duke. And on the back, in Wayne's handwriting, added just weeks before he died. The real thing is at home. Don't wait too long. Duke. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. Michael Brennan kept that letter for the rest of his career. When young actors asked him for advice, he'd show it to them. He'd tell them about the day John Wayne fell in the desert. About the choice Wayne made to call his son. About the fishing trips that mattered more than any film. The letter sits now in the Academy Museum in Los Angeles, donated after Michael Brennan passed away in 2019. Next to it, the final crew photo from the Shootist. If you look closely, you can see the envelope in Wayne's shirt pocket. The real thing was at home. John Wayne figured that out before it was too late. Some men learn it sooner.